It's a huge one.
It's a huge moment in your life.
Huge moment of that, and in the helicopter, waking up in the helicopter. That's like one of my own. I still have that memory of waking up in that helicopter, being medevaced to Richmond, I guess, whatever.
It was
a trauma
Richmond,
center.
yeah.
You
The
see,
trauma center.
I always say this about myself, that out of all the trauma that our family has been through and everything we're observing with my kids and different things, God kind of protects me by putting me in shock. And so I can be the strong mom and I can get through and I can be a leader and push through. But then when it's over, I collapse.
You take your moment.
And so raising you has, during those early years, was a lot of that.
So, obviously, we've had a long and interesting road. You guys both, I think, have your own unique styles of parenting. What was it like for both of you trying to parent me as both like the first child, so the oldest, but then also being adopted?
Carnival ride is the first thing that comes to mind.
I don't know if we're about to reveal something. I don't know if Isaac knows we say this about him.
Oh, can we say that?
I think so.
So
We have
Isaac, we're going to share something with you now on camera in front of everybody, the whole world. And this is actually live. No, it's
Having
not
my
actually
The
live
Office
right
moment.
now. Have you ever heard your mother and I just sort of in the background or whisper the words, "Keep your hands inside the car"?
No.
Okay. Then that
Yeah.
means we concealed it pretty well. So every time you had some issue,
Yeah.
problem, crisis,
Yeah. You're making me sound so stable, by the way.
well, I mean, to be honest with you, every child has those. It's just that
Yeah.
yours were distinct.
Yeah, distinct.
Well, you were the
connected.
first. So,
Right.
Yeah, and the first. Your mother and I developed this sort of metaphor of riding a roller coaster. Like raising Isaac is like riding a roller coaster.
The ups and
Yeah,
downs.
the
And
ups and
so
downs,
we
yeah.
developed, we would just look at each other and say, "Keep your arms inside the car."
Because whenever you ride a roller coaster, and
Yeah.
music part, like keep
You
your
know,
arms,
It's a roller coaster.
keep your
Yeah.
arms
But,
inside the car at all times.
But a fun one.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of the time, okay, it started,
Yeah.
well, it probably started way before this, but there was a time when you were allergic to a certain medication.
Oh, yeah.
And
I forgot about that.
so you were having these hallucinations. You remember
Mhm.
this?
Yeah.
Right. And for your crowd, I don't know if you've told your friends this story, but Isaac was having hallucinations
Mhm.
that, I mean, they're actually, it's kind of funny now a little bit,
Yeah. It's funny
but
it was not funny then.
it was not funny
I
then.
lost my mind over this.
He was having hallucinations that reptiles of various kinds were after him, and they were getting in his clothes and under his clothes, and specifically in your underwear.
Yeah.
They were coming. One night, I ran to your bedroom after hearing a loud scream, and you were curled up in a fetal position in the corner, screaming, saying, "Watch out, Dad, you're stepping on them. They're coming to get me."
and so
Now,
and so believable that I kept saying, where there? Where?
yeah, I mean, I didn't want to step on one.
Yeah.
I don't like
Yeah.
snakes at all. And so that was very early on.
He called them creatures.
And I'm not going to lie to you. We
Yeah.
kind of thought we adopted a child who has some severe psychological trauma.
Mm.
And hey, you know what? That's fine. We'll
Yeah.
deal with it. But now we know.
Yeah.
We took you to doctor after doctor after doctor. But the funniest thing we did,
Mhm.
you know where I'm going with this, don't you?
Another sad
You
story.
wouldn't put on any clothes.
Yeah.
All right.
Nothing.
Naked as a jaybird, man. And we wrapped you in a towel and we took you to church during a church service to the front of the church so the elders could lay hands on you and pray for you and cast out whatever garbage was in your soul.
That is actually the moment that I became Bible man.
It makes sense
Yeah.
because the evil went out and Bible man came in.
Yeah. Call back to last
So
episode.
at that point, we still didn't know
Yeah.
We didn't figure.
what's going on with
Can I
this guy.
tell how we figured it out? 'Cause I
Yeah.
don't think you were with me when we figured it out.
No, I was.
My sister Melanie and I decided we were going to get in the car and drive to Richmond, and we took you to multiple pediatricians until somebody would give us an answer. So we had you wrapped in a blanket, taking you from doctor to doctor to doctor, and finally someone said, "Oh, he's on," and is it Tanafed?
Tanafed.
Tanafed.
Wow.
That
Allergic
can
to
very
Tanafed.
rarely cause hallucinations in children.
Rarely.
Rarely.
Yeah.
It's an allergy medication.
Rare guy.
Got that got it cleansed from your system, and you were fine.
That was it.
That was it. That was the beginning.
No psycho babble, just
Nope.
Tanafed.
Just Tanafed. Then back to normal, right?
Totally. After that, really no issues.
Yeah.
No, but that's why I say the roller coaster.
Right.
Because I mean that was very early on, and
Yeah.
and from that time on, it's just whoo.
Right.
Keep your arms inside the car, man. You're on
And-
the Isaac ride.
I'm just gonna put this on like a dating profile for myself. Just here's what you're walking into.
Yeah. It's a roller
Everything is
coaster.
extreme. You have lived a life of extremes.
Yeah.
It's
Sure, I'm
awesome.
working through
Imagine
that.
how boring our
Sometimes
lives would have
on
been.
purpose, and other times just not. It's just
Right.
how it is. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good way to describe me, actually. Definitely have extreme tendencies, working on it. That was oddly a part of a conversation I had with Sarah about slowing down and being more thoughtful. So it's interesting that we talk about this side of things too, because I think that's very much our relationship. Our relationship has been walking through the very big highs and the very big lows that I've experienced, and my difficulty navigating finding the middle. How do you guys think that you differed in trying to help me navigate that? Because I can think of ways, but what for you? First off, I think the roller coaster is a good way to set the stage, but internally, what's going on for each of you as you think about maybe the shredding the adoption papers as another very low, right? So ripping up the adoption papers at 7, 8 is another low. What is the internal reaction of both of you?
So you and I are actually similar in that way. So because I'm a person of extremes as well in the way I react to things. So I'm either everything's chill or everything's off the charts emotion, kind of thing. And so I think anytime that there was a struggle with you, if you were struggling or there was a discipline issue, anything, like my emotions were high. So I immediately went to, he ripped up his adoption papers, so he's going to hate us one day, and he's not going to want to be part of our lives. When we went through all of the race issues, it's, oh, he's rejecting us, he's going to reject white society, and we're never going to see him again. Like every time we had an issue, my thought process went to the extreme negative reaction, and I worried myself sick that that's what we were headed towards. Dad had the opposite reaction almost
Well,
every time.
Kind of, I think there are two things you can do with the roller coaster imagery. You can either shut it down or just get on it. And I think I just decided to get on it. And just ride it with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's
Be a little bit more slow with it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I think there's a negative side to both of the ways that we parent.
Absolutely.
But I think that you could say about your dad, when I tell people that I can count on one hand in a 31-year marriage the amount of times I've seen him lose his temper. It maybe only be like twice. Like his emotions don't control him that way. And I think that is it accurate to say that that he parented you, that's what you saw in our home, that
I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that he just always nothing freaked him out ever, kind of thing.
What's interesting that you say that, and not particularly on topic, but I actually still find myself trying to do that. Like I still find myself having a very difficult time being young. And so I had it then, and I've had certainly my fun in life and been young at times. But I still find it very hard. Don't laugh. I found it continuously harder and harder to be a young person and accept that as like that everything does not have to be so heavy all the time. Um, becoming a dad obviously changes things, so you have to grow up in a lot of ways. Um, but even still, like I'm a year 26 and it feels like year 46, and I feel like that's wrong. You know what I mean? It's like a joke among my friend groups, and yeah, I joke about it too. But it's like that is a genuine thing for me, feeling like very old and not maybe living in the moment enough because I'm so far processing the future or where I want to be or what I want to feel. So it's interesting that you have that thought of me as a 17-year-old, just like be 17 for a second. Yeah, because I'm still trying to be 26. I'm trying to be 26 in the moment. You know what I mean? And know what that means.
I mean, don't you contribute that maybe to early trauma?
Oh, absolutely.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
you had the adoption. We haven't even talked about the fact that you died when you were 5 years.
Oh, that's
Okay,
true.
that's
Let's
dramatic.
talk about my resurrection.
So the Isaac that you all see here
Yeah.
is the new and improved
Yeah, 2.0.
resurrected Isaac. He actually died
Yeah. I forget about that twice.
in it would have been the year about 2006 or no,
I don't
wait,
remember
4 or
years.
5.
FBI.
You were.
I guess we probably should explain that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Isaac was at a swimming pool. Julie was there. Kids are just having fun, and Isaac climbs up the sliding board to go in, kind of having a little tuffle with your cousin there, a little fun, and you slipped head first onto the pavement. So that head injury
10
and
feet, 10 feet fall onto concrete.
Medevaced hospital. They lost vitals. But what I'm saying is that so you went through. You had adoption trauma. You had stuff that wasn't even connected to adoption on top of that.
Stuff that many people wouldn't even know. Like that story, I don't think we've ever told on this podcast. Many people wouldn't even know that story. But that is true.
That's
it's a huge one.
That's a huge moment in your life.
Huge moment of that, and in the helicopter, waking up in the helicopter. That's like one of my own. I still have that memory of waking up in that helicopter, being medevaced to Richmond, I guess, whatever.
Yeah,
It was
to trauma
Richmond,
center.
yeah.
at
The
PC.
trauma center. Yeah, and yeah. There's a lot of interesting, not to get too deep, but there's a lot of interesting parts of our story, and in my story in particularly, that are very confusing to navigate through because the adoption, the head injury, being lost twice, it makes you wonder what all of this is for. Like, I feel like that's my lifelong question. Like, why? Like, what is this even happening for? And I think sometimes when we do stuff like this and the work at Identity, it helps me channel it and make me feel like there's a good purpose for it all. But it is very confusing at times. I mean, even just thinking about the conditions that I was born into, the early years with my birth parents, the reasons that I got placed for adoption of being, close to eviction and not stability home, the Kool-Aid thing with my teeth, you know what I mean? There's all these very confusing moments in my journey that feel like they should not have continued, actually. And so we're here again, talking about these moments. And maybe that's why I can't be young. It's because death is always looming.
It's looming.
It's always looming. It's always right there.
But when you're Bible man,
When you're Bible man, when you've resurrected,
just our family.
Yeah.
For whatever reason,
Mm.
there's been lots of
it's like
trauma.
a trauma magnet.
Yeah. And to rise up out of it, I think, is important.
I think first of all, one thing that we didn't understand when we started the adoption process is that when you adopt, you are inviting trauma into your home. Now, that doesn't mean because we adopted you, you had a head injury and dad had heart failure and our house caught on fire and
Yeah.
like adoption didn't cause all of that.
You're right. Yeah.
But I think that just I think that we were incredibly naive to the fact, like even the allergies. like when that's your biological child, you may have some hint. Maybe a parent has severe allergies, maybe, whatever. We completely underestimated the amount of trauma that just comes into a home just because you've adopted a child. The trauma that they've gone through, the different things that they're going to deal with that you aren't prepared, kind of thing. So in the early years, I think we were kind of deer in the headlights and in shock sometimes. I mean, obviously, watching your child have a near fatal injury like that is, I always say this about myself, that out of all the trauma that our family has been through and everything we're observing with my kids and different things, God kind of protects me by putting me in shock. And so I can be the strong mom and I can get through and I can be a leader and push through. But then when it's over, I collapse. I kind of lose it for a little, not lose it. That's an exaggeration,
Right.
but
But
I
you
kind
take your moment.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so raising you has, during those early years was a lot of that. Like, I'm responsible for him. I love him. I'm his mom. So I've got to be here and lead and advocate and do all the things. But then when it's over, actually, after your head injury, you probably don't remember this or even know this, but I was pregnant with Zachary. Let's see, this injury happened the end of August, I think, and, Zachary is born in November, so I was entering into my final trimester. So, I went into preterm labor,
Oh,
like, 2
wow.
days after, like, you got home from the hospital, and then 2 days later, I went into preterm labor.
Wow.
Yeah, kinda thing, and had to go on bed rest for a while, and it would stop.
Yeah.
It was obviously from the shock and trauma of
Yeah,
all of that, but
absolutely.
yeah, but
Yeah.
it's just kinda how God made me, and I've continued to be that way, hold it all inside and then collapse? So, yeah.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of that in me too. Just like I think I react to life very similarly.
Mhm. Yeah.
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 Sure. Yeah. So I'm not the kind of guy that goes around giving advice to people,
Okay.
as you know, but I'm going to offer a
Hey, he
piece.
just laughed.
I know that was good.
I think you say that this is your 3rd podcast, and I think you've maybe said that on 2 of them, but anyway, go ahead.
Do I say that? And then I
Yes.
give advice?
Yes.
Well, here I go. I got to be consistent.
Yes.
No, I'm not, I'm really not the kind of person to give unsolicited advice. But here's what I would say. So this is a general parenting thing, but then it's sort of intensified with the adoption issue is as parents, you're kind of behind the curtain um, trying to navigate this thing because there's certain things you don't want the kids to see or hear because they just need to be protected from it. So you're trying to protect your children, but you're also what you do sometimes forget is you're so busy protecting their souls that you don't take care of your own.
Right.
So my counsel to people who are going through any kind of trauma would be at some point you got to get away and treat and you got to have a me day and you've got to because what's going to happen it sounds selfish a little bit but what's going to happen is you're eventually going to hit a wall and you're going to crash and you're going to burn and it's going to be really ugly for everybody because you've either been in denial about the fact that you have your own personal it's sort of like Julie and I've done stuff on talking about miscarriages and so forth. And it's sort of, like the same concept there that, the husband is really trying to comfort the wife, but the husband also lost a child.
Right.
It's just two different things that you have to navigate. So I don't know if that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
that
would
makes
say,
any sense.
Yeah.
too, we were navigating all that while you were younger,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes doing a fine job and other times not. One of the things, and I think I've talked before about how much we were advocating for you, whether it was through trauma or behavioral issues or racism or things like that. One of the things that we are just now, as you're an adult, probably within
Yeah.
the last 2 or 3 years, understanding is, how sensitive your entire life you've been to rejection. And so parenting you through trauma, um, I can look back now and realize we really messed up a lot of times because we did not understand. I don't know what would I mean, sometimes parents just have to make hard calls no matter what, kind of thing. So I don't know what we would have done differently, but I do know I'm just starting to understand um uh, those are the signs. Isaac's feeling rejection. And so we're going
Mm,
to start to see A, B, and C happen, kind of
mm,
thing. And I wish that I had been clued into that. I feel like if we had had more
yeah,
counsel when you were younger,
yeah,
we would have been clued in that as you were going through trauma, as our family was going through trauma, we maybe would have handled things differently with you than maybe we would have even our bio kids, kind of thing. And um, and yeah, that's a puzzle piece that I think we were missing until really you were an adult.
yeah.
Um,
And that makes total
mhm.
sense. I think it's a good realization to have, even if it's happening now,
Yeah.
right? Even if it's happening now, because there's still those moments for me.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
still there's still rejection things that pop up here
Mhm.
and there, even
Yeah.
though they don't happen as frequently. You still navigate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it came to processing some of the racial stuff that came up, I know those were two very different reactions. Well, you already kind of alluded to it.
Yeah.
You being more like he's rejecting us entirely, and dad being more, I'm just trying to figure out what this even means.
Yeah, so I had a more emotional reaction, and even when I got over the fear and moved into like being your advocate and
Yeah.
trying to it was all still very emotional for me.
Yeah.
Dad was more academic.
Right.
Let me read all the books. Where's he coming from with these
Yeah.
things? And so yeah, that's
Interesting.
yeah.
In terms of, when we had our conflict, especially about race, I ended up leaving and going to Atlanta. What for you guys do you feel like was the biggest change? Like almost like that light bulb moment for each of you?
Um I think for me, there was a couple of things. First of all, you just moving to Atlanta. As much as a parent hates to see their child move, and I love it that we're all here right now, and I hope it lasts forever that we're all in the same town because we're having a blast. Um, but even Zachary just moved out 5 minutes from us. Everyone will say when your adult kids move out, that's when you can become their friend, kind of thing. And so when you moved to Atlanta, it gave us really good space to miss one another. So I always tell you guys when you're dating as teenagers, don't see each other every day. Allow yourself time to miss one another, kind of thing. But that there's a truth to that.
Yeah,
So that
exactly.
space was really good for us.
Yeah.
And it allowed each of us to do our own exploring without
Mm,
that emotional tension in the house all
yeah.
the time. And so that was as much as I hated it then and couldn't see that when you left. And it was kind of hurtful that you felt like you had to leave our home to be safe. Kind of not that sounds horrible. Not to be safe in an abusive type way, but just
Right.
like you
Emotionally safe.
emotionally
Yeah.
safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, that was hurtful.
Yeah.
But now looking back, I can see that that was a huge part of our healing.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of
Absolutely.
thing. Um, and during that time, we received counsel that
Yeah.
was if you we've mentioned John's name several times in many
Yeah.
podcasts, but having his advice to us, who his story is not your story, but it's a little bit similar to your story, and he went through a stage as a young adult, transitioning from teenage years to young adult years, where he really struggled with identity and um, issues and things. And his advice to us was Isaac knows 100% everywhere you disagree with him,
Mm,
every place. You never, ever have to tell him again. And if you want a relationship when he's 30, stop telling him
yeah.
every time you disagree with him and do your own research.
Yeah.
Read what he's reading,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And we took that advice to heart. And
Mm,
I think seeing him was kind of like gave me hope. Okay, Isaac doesn't have to head down this path where he's never coming back to us. So that gave me hope, and just listening to his advice. And I mean, as soon as we took his advice, combined with the distance, um, we really just started to see things turn around.
yeah. Absolutely.
I would
Yeah.
amen that and then add there was something that happened to you when you were in Atlanta that kind of intensified that.
Yeah.
And that's when you got robbed.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you've talked about that, but and you were kind of set up and late at night some folks attacked you and well, then so everything that Mom just said. So we had these tense moments, and then we have the space, right? So then you're down there way out of our reach, and then this terrible thing happens to you. And it reinforced to us how much we loved you and missed you. And maybe we weren't really happy at all that you were gone. But I mean, that's a terrible thing to have to happen. But anytime things like that happen, it kind of cause you to
cause a wake up moment.
Yeah, it was. And we just kind of wanted to be with you and give you a hug and help you get through that. And
It's funny because we brought this up with the family the other night. The kids were, of course, making fun of me, like always, because they're like, what was it? Sarah said, they're my birthday attributes. One of the things I love about Mom is no matter what time of the night you think you might need her, you can call her, and she's probably awake with insomnia, and she
she'll answer the phone like she's waiting.
She'll scrounge around for the phone and answer it. And we laughed about the fact that even when you were jumped in Atlanta in the middle of the night, and they took your phone and you got back to your place and messaged me, called me on Facebook Messenger, somehow in the middle of the night, I still heard that. And
Exactly.
answered it.
Let's not talk about how this podcast is really just all my L's in life.
But
everyone comes out.
but I remember thinking then, though, I was the person he chose to call. Like, and that was a big.
I mean, that's
that unless you've been at a point in your life where you're having separation from your child, you don't understand what a big win that is.
Yeah, absolutely.
That I was the person he chose to try to get in touch with.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow.